Oh, hello. Uh, this video is looking at the Commorrite Compendium kill team, and it's just going to be a quick overview of my thoughts after reading the rules. So, the Commorrite kill team has, it's that pretty standard Compendium 5 team. You're going to end up with 10 bodies, which is the norm, I think, for kill team, right? You shouldn't think of 10 as being a horde. I think of 10 as being a normal team, and then if it's less than 10, it must be an elite team. You've got two fire teams to choose from. You've got the Kabalites and the Wyches. So essentially, you've got your range team and your close combat team. Generally speaking, and we'll look at the rules individually in more detail in a little bit, but generally speaking, I think that the default thing is going to be to take one of each to mix the two, right? So you're taking 5 Kabalites and 5 Wyches. And I just want to add that Kabalites bring security, and security is just the best set of objectives. And it's always worth pointing out which fire teams will get you that access to that security deck. So let's look at that Kabalite fire team. Aside from that security deck, what are you actually getting with your 5 Kabalites? Well, you get 1 gunner and 1 heavy gunner. If you double up, then you get 2 gunners, so you do get that diminishing returns if you double up, right? Because you're not going to get another heavy gunner. So let's look at the choices that you're making. 5 Kabalites, you can have 1 with a heavy gunner and 1 as a gunner, and you can make 1 your leader, but that, of course, as usual, does come with the opportunity cost of making 1 of the Wyches your leader instead. So, all the Dark Eldar, they've got 4 up saves, 9 wounds on the leader, 8 wounds on everybody else, defense of 3 of course, group activation 1 of course, 2 APL of course, and 3 circle move. So pretty standard, slightly low wound count, but pretty standard. Essentially, all we're really looking at here is weapon choices, right? So what guns are you going to take? So your heavy gunner, you've got your Dark Lance, 6-7 damage, 4 shots hitting on 3s. Your Splinter Cannon, 3-5 damage, 5 shots hitting on 3s. Dark Lance has got that unwieldy rule, which does mean it's 2 action points to shoot it. But AP2, your Splinter Cannon has lethal 5+ and Fusillade. Fusillade very rarely useful. I think, if you're like me, initially you're going to be drawn towards the Dark Lance. I think the Dark Lance has its place, especially if you're fighting elite teams, Custodes or something like that. Then the ability to just really try and kill something with the AP2 is really powerful. But I think most of the time the Splinter Cannon is actually the one you'd want, right? And you'll understand more about that when we talk about the equipment, because there's a particular piece of equipment that really buffs the Splinter Cannon as well, that I think is a really nice piece of equipment. But I think the Splinter Cannon is probably the pick for most of the time, and then if you're playing against something very elite, maybe you want to consider your Dark Lance. Kabalite Gunner, you've got the choice between the Blaster and the Shredder. Shredder, slightly more sort of dice, it's 5 shots over to 4, but 3-4 damage. The Blaster loses an attack dice, only 4 dice, but it's 5-6 damage in AP2. But the Shredder has the blast rule, slightly confusingly. Not the Blaster doesn't have the blast rule. The Shredder has the blast rule. I tend towards the Blaster, even though the Splinter Cannon, but I think I tend towards the AP2 with the Blaster with that one. I think you just that power of having that 5-6 shot is worth taking that with AP2. I think that's what I go for. And unlike a melter gun, it's not got a range limitation, so you can shoot that from far on the board. It's essentially a plasma gun. I mean, it doesn't get hot, but it's got AP2 all the time. So yeah, very powerful gun. So most of the time, I'd be taking a Blaster and a Splinter Cannon. If I was going into something really hoardy like 14 Krieg, then maybe I'd change the Blaster to a Shredder. And if I was going into something really elite like Custodes, maybe I'd change the Splinter Cannon to a Dark Lance. On the leader, I think I would generally be taking my leader from the other team. I think I would generally be taking my leader from the Wyches. The leader has the advantage of being able to take close combat weapons, right? So you've got the options of the blast pistol, the splinter pistol, and the splinter rifle for your ranged weapons. Well, forget the splinter pistol, it's pointless. It's a splinter rifle with a range limitation. So you're taking the blast pistol and the splinter rifle. Splinter rifles are good, they've got that lethal 5-up, but it is also the gun that your basic grunt is armed with, so there's not a lot of point making it your leader if your leader's just going to take a splinter rifle. Blast pistol's a good thing, you know, it's an Inferno pistol, a melter pistol, very much worth taking, but I just think taking it on the Witch is possibly a bit more useful. And you've also got the choice between the Agonizer, the array of blades, and the power weapon. Again, ignore the array of blades, it's pointless. Agonizer versus the power weapon. Annoyingly, I think the power weapon is slightly better. I say annoyingly because the Agonizer is the cool faction weapon, right? It's the cool whippy thing that all my models are assembled with when they can have one. But I think the power weapon is better. They're very similar, but the power weapon's just got that lethal 5-up and the 4-6 damage, whereas the Agonizer still got the lethal 5-up, but it's got a 3-6 damage, so you lose a base point of damage. You do get brutal, which means you can only parry by crits, which is good. Maybe it's my experience with people I'm playing with, I don't find that parrying happens very often. Combat tends to be often, I hit you, you hit me, I hit you, and you're dead, right? The crit thing doesn't seem, the parries don't seem to come into it very often, so I think I would go for the power, but I think they're very, very close. They're so close that actually, if I played with my models, I'd use the Agonizer because that's what's on the model. I don't think it's enough of a difference to worry about converting them and changing the miniatures. Let's have a look at the other fire team, the Wyches. So the same thing on the leader, Agonizer versus power weapon. I think power weapon might technically be a little bit better, but the Agonizer is what I've got, and I'd be quite happy to use it. It's a good weapon. There's no contest between the blast pistol and the splinter pistol. Let's hit the blast pistol. I would make the witch my leader. I think just for that 5-up invulnerable save, and I know that the Kabalite leader's got an armor save, but then if you don't take the Kabalite leader, you have an extra Kabalite with just the splinter rifle, which is a strong weapon. Whereas if you don't take the Witch leader, you took another Witch warrior, which just isn't as useful. So I really think you want to take your leader from the Witch side, the Witch fire team. And then slightly strangely, you get two. If you have one fire team, you can have two Witch fighters, but they must have unique weapons. And then if you double up and go fully Witches, then you can take the third fighter. And just like with the heavy guns in the Kabalite fire team, you've got that diminishing returns thing. So you're really getting the most specialists and the most upgrades if you're taking half and half. In terms of the specialist weapons on the Witch fighter, it's very they're very much a muchness. Okay, I think the Hydra gauntlets and the shard net of the Impaler are the two that you'd take in your 5-man fire team. I don't think the Razor. I think the Razor flails are the ones you wouldn't take. And then if you had that matchup where you really wanted to double up and go for 10 close combat characters, then you wouldn't be sad that you're taking the Razor flails. They're not bad. But I just think it's the fact that they're 3-4 damage instead of 4-5 damage hurts them. I really think, especially when it comes to close combat, the raw damage output is the most important thing. Because unlike with shooting, where you can go, oh yeah, but this has more dice, with combat, the amount of damage you front load in that first dice is the most important thing. So while with shooting, you can kind of weigh up between the Dark Lance and the Reaper Cannon. You go, well, this has one more dice, this has more damage, but it's going to do more overall. Close combat, you want to ladle on as much damage as you can with that first hit. So the Razor flails are the ones I leave behind. That was really quick. There wasn't much to say, so we're on to the equipment already. They got grenades. Zimbad's a great fan of grenades. Always kicking my backside with grenades because I cluster my men up too much. I guess if you're fighting against somebody that you know that they're going to bunch their guys up, then grenades are worth taking. They've also got the Phantasm Grenade Launcher, which is another blast weapon, but it's infinite shots. It's not all that limited keyword, but it also doesn't have the indirect keyword, so it doesn't really work like the thrown grenades do, where you can get behind things, which is kind of really their big benefit. We got lots of buffs for the splinter cannon. I particularly want to call out Agonite. So for 3 equipment points, is expensive. 3 equipment points, you can pick your splinter cannon, and you can give it relentless, which basically means that you can reroll your misses. Yeah, you can reroll any or all of your attack dice, which is what makes the splinter cannon really good. Yes, you're paying a 3 equipment point tax every time you take one, but that makes it really beat out the Darklands, in my opinion, anyway. And I will add, while I used to main these in Kill Team 2018, and I've got the models, I've not actually ever played a game with them, but I really think that looks strong, at least on paper. You can also give your splinter cannon rending. You can give your splinter cannon the splash 1 critical hit rule. You're then putting a lot of equipment points on one model, right? That's 9 equipment points just on upgrading your splinter cannon. You can also give those things to a splinter pistol or splinter rifle, but I'm not sure why you would. You can take a banner, which gives you then a sort of, while someone's friendly, invisible to them within blue, when determining control, treat this friendly's objective's APL as being 1 higher. Yeah, you can only put it on the Sybarite though, so maybe that's a reason to take your leader from your Kabalite side. I guess they realised that most people prefer to take the Witch leader, so maybe that's a reason to take one from the Kabalite side. It just depends what you're going to take. If you are taking security, then yeah, you know, central control is going to come in. Okay, I can see it. Yeah, worth mentioning. And then we've got a couple of different ways of buffing the Wyches, the different drugs there. I think it would take some serious number crunching to work out which of those drugs was best. Off the top of my head, I like the Grave Lotus. The first time you strike, you inflict 1 additional damage. It goes back to what I said before. Doing extra damage with that initial swing in melee is the most important thing. Yeah, because the Adrenalite, being able to reroll 1 of your attack dice, it's nice to have. The Painbringer stuff, which is like a damage reduction thing, is nice to have. But I really think that the Grave Lotus, if you're going to invest in buffing up your Witches, that's the one I'd go for. That's it, brings on to the Ploys. Agile Gladiators looks bananas. I'm sure other people who've played this team have talked about it already, but let's just look at this. So, spend 1 CP before the start of the game, and you don't have very many of them, it's fair enough to say. But until the end of the turning point, each time a friendly Witch operative fights in combat, in the resolve successful hit step of the combat, each time your opponent strikes with a normal hit, you can roll a d6. On a 4-up, you treat that strike as a parry instead. Right? That's bananas. Harlequins can do something similar to that, and that's bananas. And also, as part of the same stratagem, as part of your 1 CP, like, that would be enough. That first paragraph would be enough. But you can move around, across, and over other operatives and their bases if they were not there, but you must finish the move in a sensible place, okay? You can ignore the first circle of distance you travel when climbing, traversing, and dropping, and you can automatically pass your jump tests for jumping over gaps. I mean, it's like, turns your Witches into Harlequin's Light, right? As long as you've got the command point, you can kind of turn yourself into Harlequin's Light. I think that's pretty cool. I really do. And that's what kind of makes you want to occasionally maybe think about running the 10 Witch team. It's just that one ploy and getting the maximum, that 4-up treat a strike as a parry thing is pretty strong. Fleet, same as the craft rollers have. Get a free dash whenever you move or fall back. Strong, yeah, just makes you faster and more predictable, works for your whole team. Good. The other ones look a bit more situational. So you got Prey on the Weak. Every time you fight in combat or make a shooting attack, in the roll attack dice step of that combat or shooting attack, if the target has half or fewer of its wounds remaining, you can re-roll up to 2 of your dice, yeah? If the situation comes up where you're fighting against someone, but you've got to declare at the start of the turn, so you have to have someone that you really want to finish off from last turn, and you're spending a whole command point just for that, very situational. Injured to Suffering. Until the end of the turning point, each time you would lose a wound, roll d6. On a 6, the wound's not lost. You can only use a strategic ploy if one or more operatives have been incapacitated. Yeah, if once you've lost a model, why not? You know, it's a 6-up feel no pain. It's really good, but you have to have lost a miniature first. But yeah, it's good. If you've got the spare CP, if you've not spent them all on Agile Gladiators and Fleet, then yeah, Injured Suffering is also really good. The tactical ploys are kind of meh. Power from Pain, when a model is incapacitated before you remove it, you can select a ready friendly operative that's within red of the one that's just died, and you can activate it, add one to its APL, and during its activation you can shoot or fight twice instead of once. It's good, and you want to use it when it comes up, but it does mean clustering your guys up and having your guys die, but when it comes up you want to use it if you can, sure. And No Escape is so situational, because I can't, you know, you have games and games and games and no one uses the fallback action. But essentially, when somebody uses the fallback action against you, you can spend the CP, roll d6, take away one if they've got more wounds than the witch they're in combat with, add one if they're injured, on a 3-up they can't fall back. But then they get their action points back anyway. It's fine, but I can't remember the last time somebody fell back in a game I was playing. So some really, really good ploys, and some are a bit more situational, which is kind of how ploys should be. I think if you have too many ploys that you want to use all the time, then that presents a different problem, right? Final thoughts. I mean, they're tempting because I have the models ready to go. And yes, I love playing my sisters, and I still think they're the ones I'm going to take to this team event that we've now bought the tickets for, by the way. But the Dark Eldar are tempting just because I've got them on the shelf, so they're ready to go. They made the transition from Kill Team 2018 to Kill Team 21 perfectly. I've got all the different bits and pieces I could want, including things to swap in and out on a roster. It is possible. I don't know what I'm talking about because I've not played a game of Kill Team 21 with them, so maybe they're secretly trash. This is just my thoughts on reading through the book. And I would say they're probably C tier. I've said that at the end of every tactics video so far. I guess it's C for Compendium. Do you know what I mean? In my mind, I will eventually have reviewed everything and give you my totally fairly random tier list of what I think where things sit. But yeah, I think you can play with them, have fun with them, win games with them. I think it's a good team. I think it's not pathetic. I think there are some pathetic teams, not many. I think there are some pathetic teams, but I don't think it's absolutely amazing either. I think it's a pass. It's good. Hope you enjoyed the video. Obviously, like, subscribe, Element Games, all those sorts of things. But mostly, I hope you have a really excellent day. Alright, bye now.